Looks like we got David Helman on the line.
Oh, Dave Helman, Fox Sports, joining us now here on 105.3 The Fan. Dave, how the hell are you? What's the weather like in Cali, my friend?
I'm wonderful, guys. It's the same as it always is, and it's a cliche, but it's true. There's not really seasons. It just kind of fluctuates between 65 and 80, depending on the day.
So we're getting closer to this NFL draft, but we got big news. Tyron Smith will be signing a one-day deal with the Cowboys. We'll have a presser tomorrow. He is retiring. So now we got Zach Martin and Tyron Smith in the same offseason. Maybe they can go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame together. That would be incredible. Do you have thoughts on Tyron's career and maybe your favorite Tyron Smith moment?
Oh, man. Really, it's just surreal. Zach and Tyron both. I mean, Zach, I guess, is the first player whose entire career I covered. I actually went to the airport to pick him up the day that he arrived in Dallas, which was pretty cool. Tyron obviously got there a little bit before me. My favorite Tyron Smith memory was probably running into him over the summer one year. You run into a teacher during the summer and you're like, oh my God, yeah, you have a life, I have a life outside of school. It was kind of like that, where I ran into him out just doing his thing one summer, and he was telling me about all the appointments and stuff that he does during the summer to get ready for a season, doctor's appointments, PT appointments, all this type of stuff, and how it was it took up weeks of his life, and you just don't really think about it. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. I mean, we know players do all this maintenance to their body, but you don't actually get to see it or hear that much about it. And he was just kind of telling me about his routine. I was like, holy crap, dude. The stuff you have to do to be ready. And then we know he battled injuries anyway. That's how physical it is playing offensive line, that you can do all of that. And you're getting in a minor car crash 40 or 50 times a week. There's only so much you can do. He's one of the toughest dudes I've ever been around. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Ironically, I think it sucks for him that he's going in at the same time as Zach, because Zach has the better case. And if only 5 guys can get in, then I don't know if they're going to put 2 guys in the same position group from the same team in the Hall of Fame at the same time. It would be really cool. But I mean, if you're choosing between the two, I think you're going to take Zach Martin. So I think it's kind of ironic that Zach might ultimately hurt his case as a first ballot guy. But I'm very confident he'll get in, and I think it would be well deserved. I'm like I said, it's surreal, but I'm really happy for him on a legendary career.
Hey, Helman, does the draft start at 2 at Cleveland or at 9 at New Orleans?
I think it starts at 3, to be honest with you.
Oh, you're going to throw the Giants in here, huh?
Yeah, I think so, because, I mean, look, we don't know anything at the end of the day, but I'm growing more and more confident that Cleveland's just going to bow up and take whichever they prefer between Hunter and Carter. I don't know for sure. I would guess.
Oh,
Travis
I think you're
Hunter.
onto something there. I think you're onto it there, yeah.
I mean, look, Cleveland's they got to deal with the Deshaun Watson money. They're going to be dealing with that for at least another year. They brought Joe Flacco back in addition to trading Kenny Pickett, so they're kind of covered in that sense. So I think Cleveland is going to just take the guy that they love and worry about quarterback later. And New York might do that too, but if you get all the way down to 3, trading up to 3 gets a little bit less expensive. If Shedeur Sanders is there, I mean, I think New Orleans is somebody you got to think about. Even with Geno Smith under contract, I'm not writing off Vegas as a Shedeur Sanders destination. So trading up from 6 to 3 sounds very palatable for the Raiders. Mm-hmm. You got to worry about the Saints. And the Giants part of it is, do you take, let's say that maybe they don't love Abdul Carter as much as we guess that they do for whatever reason. Maybe they don't. And so maybe they're a little more open for business the same way that Cleveland is, thinking like, hey, we got Russ. We can go a year before we figure this out. Let's decide what we're going to do about Brian Daboll before we draft a quarterback. So I think it kind of starts at 3. I think if I had to guess today, I think we're talking Cam Ward, followed by Travis Hunter, And then it's up to New York whether do they take a quarterback themselves? Are they open for business? That's kind of where I see things getting wacky.
Dave Helman, Fox NFL, with us here in the GBAG Nation. What's your ideal scenario for the Cowboys at 12? Are you all about just whatever receivers there? Golden, Tet, that seems to be the two most prominent names.
No, my whole thing with this draft is trying to keep as open of a mind as possible. I mean, the Cowboys have too many needs for me to lock in on one guy. I mean, I think drafting one position group, no matter what, is a mistake most of the time, but especially when you have as much work still to do as the Cowboys have. And there should be good value. You know, I mean, you could conceivably, outside of Travis Hunter, who's obviously a unique deal, but you could conceivably get the best corner in the draft at 12. If an offensive lineman slips, you could get an offensive lineman that you potentially feel really great about. Pass rusher 1 is going to be long gone, obviously, but there will be 2 or 3 edge rushers you should be really excited about. And then that's without mentioning the receivers and obviously Ashton Genty. I think there's so many directions you could go in. I lean toward receiver because I think the Cowboys skill group is borderline embarrassing by NFL standards. But if it falls the right way, you know, like I said, if one of these offensive tackles that's not supposed to be there falls, or if Will Johnson is there, who I really like, I know Brian's worried about his speed, but I really like him. If that guy's there, I take a hard look at Will Johnson. Depending on the edge rusher, I think it would depend, but you could talk me into that. So there's 4 or 5 different directions I'm comfortable going in, but I would be really excited to come away from this with Tet McMillan, Golden, even if it was Luther or Igbuka, because we get stuck into this mode every year where we think that every team sees the stack the way that we all do. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Cowboys like a different receiver more than we're giving them credit for. And, you know, if it's Burton or Igbuka, I'd be A-okay with that too. I just need a guy who can start from day one. And I really feel like all 4 of those main guys could do that.
David, I know that, I mean, you're out there and you're studying guys. You know, you were such a great asset to the draft show and through the history of it, though. Do you have like Will Johnson? Maybe it's an unfair question, but do you have Will Johnson as your number 1 corner if you were to put together a board? You
know me, Barry. Yeah, I don't have a board. I leave that to y'all.
No, I know that, and that's why. I mean, I asked the question in a way because I wanted to see how committed you really were to Will Johnson. If I could talk you out of that.
Here's my thing. Like, I don't have a board. I don't pretend to have these guys in an order. But what I do is the names that I need to know, I flip on a couple of games, 2 or 3 games, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that he can do this, he can do that. Yeah. He's hanging with that guy. He's playing Texas here, and he's staying with this guy. He's playing Ohio State, and he looks great. He's got good hands. So I don't have him ranked over anybody.
Okay.
I just know he plays a position that the Cowboys need, that not a lot of people are talking about as a need, in my opinion. Yeah. And I think he could step in and do the job. I mean, corner's a tough learning curve, obviously, but he could step in and not be a total liability from day one. And I think there's huge value in that. And it's the type of stuff we used to argue about all the time. But with a pick this big, I want a guy that throws the ball, catches the ball, affects the quarterback, or affects the receiver. I mean, those big money positions. I know you don't want to window dress your board, but you want the most valuable impact possible and the guys who you're going to get the most cost-effective deal from. I mean, if Will Johnson or if a pass rusher plays at an all-pro level quickly, it's a bargain. And so that's why I gravitate toward a guy like that more so than having him stacked up in a certain way.
See, with Will Johnson, I kind of look at it as buying a stock. I don't know everything about the company. You know, you're asking me to pay millions of dollars for a stock that I don't know everything about. And that's the thing that scares me, David.
But you trust the tape, am I right, my friend?
No, trust the tape, absolutely. But through my life, I've been able to, I don't know anything about metrics. I don't know anything about ceilings or floors. I always was the tape. but those numbers did mean something to me at one time. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say the numbers are meaningless. They're definitely not meaningless. And, but it's about to be, David, we're about to draft. We get on these teams for bad drafts, but they don't have all the information to make the best decisions. That's where I'm learning at right now.
And you know what? You hate ambiguity, so I can understand why this bothers you so much. But
he's a good player, David. God, this guy's a good player.
The guy's got a ton of tape of him playing in one of the toughest conferences in college football, Michigan, playing in the
He's
playoff
also banged up, too. He's banged up like these other guys. I've got a Notre Dame corner that I love that's got a bad hip. I got a East Carolina corner that's got a bad knee. You know, I'm that's the tape to me, David. That's the tape. Nothing
makes you more upset than falling in love with a player that's got some sort of red flag that you can't move past. It's always been fun to watch you get frustrated by that.
I die, David. I die every time I do this. A little part of me dies.
Maybe you get him at a discount later. You know,
that Blue Star special.
I remember. It's so. I'm not saying this is going to happen to Will Johnson, but I'll never forget. In 2020, you know, that really fun 2020 draft, it was, you know, word got out that they loved Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, I love him, but you can't take him at 17. The value's just not there. Then lo and behold, he's hanging out waiting for you in the second round.
Yeah.
Gosh, we can only hope that it's as good as 2020. David Helman, Fox Sports, with us here in the GBAG Nation. Thanks so much, man. Keep kicking ass out there in Hollywood.
Appreciate it, guys. I'll talk to you soon.